Alright guys, today's project here is the John Deere 214. It's a great little tractor, but over the past 2 months I use it on and off, and every time I use it I need to use more and more and more choke in order for it to run. And normally what that means is that the carb bowl is getting full of crap. It's so bad now that it won't even start at all. So in order to get to the carb, you got to take the hood off this thing. It's not really a big deal, it's just a couple bolts, but I'm going to drop the hood and then we'll take the carb off and we'll clean out the bowl, and most likely it's full of the standard ethanol crap that you're used to seeing in those carbs these days. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so the hood comes right off, no big deal. And now to get to the carburetor here, the John Deere spec Kohlers have a little bit of a different air cleaner setup than the Gravely's do. And this one also seems to have broken engine mount over here. That's pretty common on these things. They had these like anti-vibration engine mounts, and what the John Deere dealer told me once a number of years ago was that the Kohler engines were so unbalanced that John Deere spec'd these rubber insulators so that the machine didn't shake itself apart. Now this mount over here is totally busted. The OEM ones they put together with rivets, and when you replace them you got to drill out the rivets and they give you nuts and bolts to put on there. But what happens is when the things are blown, the engine shakes around a lot, and then it likes to destroy the drive belt for the mower deck. They're kind of a pain in the butt to replace. I've done it on another tractor. It was a 210 once, and they weren't cheap. They were like $25 a piece or something like that. But they basically make this big metal tray here that the motor sits in. But anyways, that's another project. For today, we're focusing on the carb. So, like I was saying, this big air cleaner feeds air from the flywheel over here. And, you know, on a Gravely, it doesn't do that. It just takes it from the atmosphere. And this part of the plate is not on there. So what we're going to do is take these 3 bolts off, and then that will take off this plate. And then we can get to the carb itself. We'll just unconnect the fuel line and we'll unhook the governor linkage there, and 2 screws and the carb will be off. No big deal. Alright, let's get to it. I've taken this apart probably a dozen times over the last 20 years to clean it. Its former life, it got used once a week in the summer for about 20 minutes a week. And that was it. Probably 15 years ago it was used to mow a lawn that was you know, 3 to 4 hours of mowing every week. And so considering that it's like a 1985 or 84 or something like that, it's 32 years old, something. It's in pretty decent shape. What it does have is the typical Kohler rod knock. A little bit of junk on there. We'll clean this all up before we put it back together. And let's see, get our fuel line off. Yeah. See if it squirts me in the face. Nope, it's dry. Okay. Pop off this little E-clip here. Don't lose that. Okay, that gets rid of our governor. Now it's just a matter of taking the 2 bolts that hold the carb on off, which are always a pain in the ass to get to. Let's see. They make these nice slotted screws so that once you get them started, you can unscrew them with a screwdriver pretty easy, because there ain't much room in there to get to it. That's for sure. If you're lucky, you can take off the right side bolt only and just slide the thing out. This one's got this choke cable that we got to unhook as well. they only made a flange that was about an inch wider, you wouldn't have this clearance issue. So we'll do that. We'll slide it out. Then we'll just pivot it down and get it off the choke. And as long as we got it off, let's pop off that bowl. Let's see what we got in there. Oh yeah, full of ethanol. Totally full of shit. Just as I suspected. See all that dusty, flaky crap in there? That's why it won't run. So we'll bring it inside to the workbench and we'll clean it out really good. The throttle shaft is pretty tight in this thing still too. That's good. This is a number 30 carb here for the 14 horse Kohler. It's a little bigger than the normal carb. It's a 26. Okay, so we'll pull out the pin here that holds the float on. Try and do this one-handed. It's not going to work too well. Hold on. Alright, so I got the float off. Now you can really see all that ethanol shit in there. It's ridiculous. Hate this gas, man. So we'll peel off this old gasket. I have a supply of these Kohler gaskets in my shop here because I'm doing this so often. So we'll take that out. Look at all that crap, man. You wonder why the thing won't run? It's full of that shit. The minute you get some gas into the carb, it just fills up the needle and seat here and you're sunk. So I'll turn it upside down. I'll get rid of it all. Spray it out with some carb cleaner. We'll blow some compressed air through it and we'll put it back together. That's the amount of crap that was in the carb. Looks like bird seed, huh? That's a lot of crap. So we'll just get rid of that. And it really can corrode the inside also. And you look at the bottom of the bowl and you see how it's got all those little spots in there where it's corroded it. So we'll take like a Dremel tool with a wire wheel and we'll just brush out the inside of that carb. And the rest of it, you can see like this powdery shit that's on there. And I think what it is that the ethanol holds water in it. So those water droplets can lead to the corrosion issue here. And they turn into those little balls of crap, those little boogers I'll call them. So this carb's pretty dirty, so I'm going to hose it off with some of that carb spray first. And then I'm going to blow it off with my air nozzle and we'll be good to go. Well, it cleaned up real nice with the carb cleaner, and I hit this gasket surface with the wire wheel on the moto tool. And the inside of my bowl still has that pitting, but it's not dirty, so we're going to put it back together. So, you know, normally I put in a new gasket. If this one will fit back in the ring without it breaking, then I'm just going to leave it. Otherwise, I'll use a new one. So let's see what happens. Alright, I was able to get it all back together, and the original gasket was fine. I sprayed it off with some carb cleaner and just cleaned off the crap that was on it. Now I'm going to put my new, my needles back in. I cleaned them off with carb cleaner. Kohler manual says 3.5 turns on the high speed and 2 1/4 on the low. So we'll adjust it and put it back together and see if it starts up. Alright, so now we're just going to put it back together, which is the opposite of taking it apart. No big deal. So we'll hook up our choke cable first. There we go. We'll slide this in like so. Get this other bolt here, put that in this side. Oh yeah. Get these as tight as we can get them with the screwdriver, and then we'll snug them up for good with the wrench. go. The inside one here is always the hardest one to get. There we go. We'll hook up our governor linkage. It's funny, the actual hole in the governor arm is kind of worn out, egg-shaped. Guess it's done a lot of governing in its life. See if I can do this without this clip shooting across the yard. Yeah, there we go. Is that on? Yeah. Okay, that's in. I'll hook up our fuel line again. Probably should replace the fuel line. It's a little hard, but I'm not gonna. So now I still need to hook up the air cleaner and everything else, but before I do that, I'm going to try to start it and see if we can get it running. So it hasn't run for about a month or so. Keep in mind there's no fuel at all in the bowl, so I don't have high expectations. Let me check my oil here. Ooh, I got to put a little oil in before I start it. Let me get some oil and I'll come right back. Alright, let's put some oil in this puppy. Got my Napa straight 30 here. It was just on the low end of the dipstick. We'll put about half a quart in or so. That should do it. Yep, that's good. Alright, so let me get on this wet seat, see if I can start it. Oh. Maybe I can do it without getting on the seat. It rained last night. That's what the problem is here. Well, I think that's a success. Carb's dripping gas. I guess I gotta put a new gasket on it after all. No point in being cheap, guys. So I'll just pop off that bowl and put on a new gasket. Basically got to redo the whole thing. I just did. No big deal. Been there, done that. So I'll put a new gasket on here. And yeah, it's leaking. We can't have any leaks. So I'll fix that. We'll put the air cleaner back on, put the hood on, and see if we can cut some grass. But yeah, it fired right up. It sounded really good. I'm very happy with that. I think I'm going to get those 2 engine mounts for the front. We could use a set of blades. And it's also missing a gasket that goes around the air cleaner base. So if I was to spend a little bit of money on it, 50, 60 bucks, it would be mint. And I'm thinking about maybe selling it though. I'm not sure. We'll see. That's a wrap on this thing, man. It's had that little engine knock forever. I've been using this tractor for 20 years. It's always had that little Kohler knock. And someday someone could rebuild it, turn the crank, and probably be good. As far as I know, it's got a standard piston in it still. Runs great. Doesn't really burn any oil or anything. It's a nice machine. Too bad it's not a Gravely though, huh? It's got to be one of these John Deeres, huh? But this is a real John Deere. This ain't no piece of shit Home Depot, Lowe's John Deere. This is the real stuff.